I'm Jessica. I'm the Executive Director for the Pennsylvania Arts Experience, which is a nonprofit artisan trail. And we have artists, master artists like Jerome Hershey. Jerry's from Lancaster and has been there for many years. And I have to say that among all of the exhibits that we've had this year, this is certainly the most playful, joyful, exciting one that I've seen. And I'm as excited as you are to hear Jerry's talk today about how he comes up with this particular genre that he's created. So Jerry?
Thank you, and thank you all for coming. It's a real pleasure to be here in York. It's a pleasure to share my work with you here in York. And I'm going to start out by reading a few quotes that I like. You probably, those of you that have followed me, know that my work, my paintings are all text or number-based abstraction. So I'm going to start out with a couple of quotes. One artist who I admire, Ed Reinhardt, said, "Art is too serious to be taken seriously," which definitely plays into this group. I'm going to talk a lot about inquiry and inquiry towards the sublime today, or talk around it perhaps. Inquiry is a seeking or request for truth, information, or knowledge. It's an investigation. What I've been involved with, and particularly in these small paintings, is a long-term investigation, and the only thing I've been doing for the past about 8 months. And you all know that the sublime is of such excellence, grandeur, or beauty as to inspire great admiration or awe. So to underline the idea that I have an ongoing inquiry. These are sketchbooks that go back to, this one is from 1973. And in my early days getting out of school, I did geometric color system painting. So what is that? I was very interested in interlocking shapes that led to different kinds of color usage. I was very interested in Joseph Albers and the hidden color problems. And I would do simple drawings like this that became large paintings, and then the colors would transition from one to the other. I'm just going to show you a few, just to give you a sense of the level of inquiry. So I got to this point, and I liked these enough that these became paintings. So these had colors that were assigned to them, and then after a while they got much larger, and some of these paintings got as large as 12 feet. In this sketchbook, and I brought this along, I went through a couple of boxes of sketchbooks. These have a lot to do with progressions of, you might say, very involved grounds, which is what I'm involved in here. And I did these after my best friend died, 92. So these were done as a way to try to understand his passing. And what I did was I came up with what I considered a very meaningful and considered stroke. So it occurred to me that if I did spirals, that I would have to really be present and thinking about, you know, whatever, if I was thinking about David or if I was thinking about whatever, but I would have to be present. And these are all just ways of dealing with that. And then these, like in the work here, this is why I brought it along, technically these are done, the little strokes underneath are done with an enamel pen, and then the work on top is done with magic markers. So you get this nice bleed through, and you can see where the pen was used. Of course, if these had been out in the sun, they probably would have all dropped out because magic marker is highly fugitive. But they make a nice investigation. Is this fun?
What surface do you paint on?
Typically, I work on canvas. I like a hard surface. The canvas is stretched on wood. So I typically work on canvas. I often work on paper. But these are all done with stencils. The words are all done with stencils. So there has to be a fairly rigid surface. Years ago, in fact, when these were done, I was doing nothing but oil paintings. This will give you a sense of thinking about the kind of geometry that I was working with at that time.
Are you mathematically inclined?
Am I mathematically inclined? Apparently, I wasn't really aware of it in school, but apparently I am. Apparently I'm inclined toward a lot of things. This is from '99. I was investigating alternative or other languages. That's the I Ching. These are different kinds of symbols. The work had different kinds of symbols floating around in those days. Those are runes from rune stones. This is 2004. So this is, during this period I was working on a group. At one point it occurred to me that a lot of the work that I had done related to folks that had died that were important to me or were important to us. And after my mother died, I started a group of work that basically used roses, very simplified roses, because my mother and I had a rose connection, and rose is one of those really loaded metaphorical images. So, but I included other things, and this is just give you a sense of my sense of, and it's very very true right now with the political scene, but my sense of our life in 20th century or 21st century Western civilization is that we're spun so many different things. So you wake up and you watch the news, or you go to, and the way the news is handled, and if someone can handle a 24-hour news cycle 7 days a week, regardless of what they say, you take it to be truthful. And so these are about spin, and I was thinking about pinwheels, and right after my mother died, someone who I respect saw me walking down the street and said, you know, you don't look too good, what's going on? And I felt like I was on a carousel, and the world was just spinning. And I know that all of us that have gone through someone passing has felt that way. And I said that to him. I said, my mother just died, and he was a good friend of mine. He goes, well, it happens to all of us. And it does. And I thought at the time that was so harsh, so harsh. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that is the reality of it. That is really our existence is very cyclical. And so a lot of what I do has to do with that kind of thing. And I do think there is one of those paintings in process. Ah, there it is. So this is one of the paintings that is a good lead into what I'm doing now. Again, you can't really see the rose. If you look at it very carefully when it's dry, you can. So the rose is an extremely ethereal element in this. There's an X, and there's this spin, so there's a sense of a pinwheel with all these other marks. And in those days, these were all oil paintings, and I would do them in steps. So I would do, let's say, maybe I did this X first, let it dry, and then I would do these curves, let it dry, and then I would do these small vertical bands after it's all on this blue ground, by the way. And then I would mix up this graduation, the yellow to the ochre, the yellow, and then paint around all that stuff. Hi, come on in. Is there room? I'm so glad you guys are here, all the whole team. Excellent. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are here. It's so great to see so many folks come from the distance. It's very, very sweet. So this is what I did after my mother died. A whole lot of work like this. And after my father died, it occurred to me that I wanted to try to, again, take, and in the statement I say I've been working with linear elements, color-oriented, repeated linear elements since about 1972. So it occurred to me after my father passed, and my father were very close, that I wanted to speak to our relationship in a way that honored experiences that we shared. So I set up, he was a Boy Scout, leader for 25 years, and we were all in the Boy Scout troop. And when we were little kids, we would see my father go away to Boy Scout weekends with these fellows in the driveway and sort of thing. And so these paintings, the tribute paintings, and there are some cards over there, you can see other ones. I only have 2 left. I have this one and I have a very large one, are all based on Boy Scout related symbols. There's square knots and fleur-de-lis. And you can see they're in transition. And there are a number of these on the website. There's one that's, the 8-foot one is in progression. So that brings us close to where we are now. Typically I don't start anything unless I think I'm going to work on it for a long time. So 5 or 6 years, an idea. So this is the last one. You can see it's not that different from this. It's just different colors. But basically it's the same idea, just with in different scale and different colors. So that, I knew when I was doing it that was the last one. I knew that I wanted to do something else. And why did I start doing words? Well, I've never considered myself a word person, never considered myself, well-read, unfortunately. And I thought if I forced myself to think about words more, and I love words, and particularly I like play words, wordplay. If I forced myself, I would have to get better. And I would have to learn new words, and I would have to learn new quotes. And so I started out, and I found this sketchbook that has me casting about. And then these are the very first word ideas. So this is a line, a quote, I guess. Genius does what it must, and talent does what it can, written over and over. This is just calligraphic alphabet. These are other ideas. And then it occurred to me, I looked through all my favorite books, tried to think of favorite quotes, tried to think of lines from songs. Where do you start? And I've always collected fortune cookie sayings. And those of you that have gone out for dinner with us know that I always ask for the fortune cookie. So I have at least 30 or 40 years of fortune cookie fortunes. So I thought, this is something that's meaningful to me. I can't explain why, but there's a truth to enough of these that I keep doing this. So I went through all of them. I had piles. I went through all of them, and I wrote them down. Or I wrote down the ones that were the best. And then I spent days reading them again, and I put marks next to the ones that I really liked. And then I chose one that I really liked a lot. Doing what you like is freedom. Liking what you do is happiness. And so that was the first one I tried to do. And I did it just the way I wrote it. I wrote it in letters about this big, and I cut them out, and I did the whole thing as one thing. So the stencil was about this big. It looked like crap. This just made the worst thing. It just wasn't interesting to look at. So I learned right away that the words had to be bigger, and the words couldn't be straight across. The words had to go like this. So around that time, the hospital in Lancaster asked me to participate in a program where they intended to have things that were available for patients' rooms. And so what would I do? What words could I do that would make sense for patients' rooms? And wow, well, here it is. Health, healthy, heal, restore, cure, return to health. So here's my first idea of what this might be. And strength and hope were 2 words that I really liked. Faith was another one. Joy was another one, I think. I asked them if they would like me to consider strength, hope, and faith, and I did pieces that were that, and this is strength. And I wrote this along so that you could see an early one that actually has letters that are recognizable. Can I put this on here?
Yeah.
So anytime there's something like that, that's a T or an F, and there obviously is an S. So S, T, that's the R, that's the E. So it's all there. Okay, Maggie?
I think so.
Okay, so the idea. So what is strength? What are strong colors? What is inspirational? If you're lying on your back and you want to heal, what is strength? What would you like?
Bright colors.
So for me, strength are these sort of colors at that time, handled this way. Now, I've been doing the words for a while. This is all still talking about inquiry. These are drawings towards other paintings. Some of these led towards, I did a large group of paintings that were based on the Eleanor Roosevelt quote, what could we accomplish if we knew we could not fail? And so these are just ways to think about that idea. And for me, that idea, that quote, what could we accomplish if we knew we could not fail, has to do with positive problem solving. What could we accomplish? How do we solve problems? We have to take the problem and break it into solvable units. So for me, it meant breaking the ground up into blocks or grids. So all the paintings were either blocks or grids. And I tried to do different kinds. I tried to set up different kinds of spatial situations. And so there were 7 of those, and one
Do you
is,
actually work your grid around the dimension to finish painting, or do you play with it till you get it to its dimensions?
I don't understand.
So do you work with 24 by 36 inch canvas and then you divide your grid to fit that, or do you work larger and then compact it into the canvas?
I probably work scale drawings, if that's what you're asking me. I don't, you mean if I do a 48-inch painting, do I do a 48-inch drawing? I have, but I don't always. I typically do scale drawings. Like these drawings, by the time I get to the point where I think I know what I'm doing, the drawing is a scale drawing. Up to that point, it might be close to scale. In the very beginning, it may not be at all. Like I think I found one in here that was exactly scale. Yeah, that one's, I'm sure that's scale. So, I had done all these paintings. A lot of them had, now by this time I've been doing the words and the text-based paintings for over 6 years. And a lot of them have this gray ground. And I had done several projects in a row that I thought were fine, but I wasn't thrilled about. So, it seemed appropriate that I should include more hand in the work, more of my own hand. And I set about, in this sketchbook, so here you can see, here's a sketch for a painting, and this is actually the word excellence repeated like Olympic rings. And there's one of those in a gallery in Connecticut right now. There's another one. And so this is just essentially automatic writing. So automatic writing for me is not thinking at all and just making marks until something, in this case, is compelling. And I hit on this, and I like these. I'm not going to take the tissue off of each one, but if I find one that I like, I'll take it off. So these marks, for me, are interesting and compelling enough to pursue. Whether or not they're totally original, I'll leave that to someone else. For me, they're original. I've never done marks like this before. And you can see I experimented with lots of them before I got to the point where, bingo, I'm really liking it now. When I really like studies, I do them in blue. This is my favorite color. So I did this book, finished this book, and then I started to do small studies, not unlike these, but earlier versions. And then I did a couple of full sheets, and in Arches a full sheet is 22 by 30. And by that time I'd been working on these. I took a couple of months and worked on this, and by that time I thought, well, I spent a lot of time on this. I guess I should get serious about it. I'm not just playing, and I really have, something has to come out of this, or something has to be, whatever. And I couldn't think of a word that really wanted to be associated with this group of work. I asked a couple of friends that lean more that way, and nobody else had a word that they really liked. And I just felt like I was playing. So I took the word playing, and I did it around the edge of 2 of these pieces of paper that were very much like these blue ones. So essentially they were blue and off-white. And I did the words in blues and off-whites and white so that they really blended with the rest of the marks on the page. And I called them playing around because the word was playing and it was going around the outside. And that's essentially what I've been doing since. These are the same thing. These are layers and layers of strokes. And then the difference, and this one you can see, that one is very difficult to see, but there becomes the word goes around the outside of this, you might say, diamond shape, and creates kind of a ghost image. So that all these paintings are called playing around. It's the same thing. And I brought this one along. This is the word serendipity. When I've worked with words like chance and serendipity, I've used a variety of different chancier or whatever you want to call it, less planned grounds to do the words on top. So I wanted to bring that to show the relationship to these. So these, take this, and then what comes next? So instead of doing a couple of studies, I thought, well, maybe I'll do a show of studies. Maybe I'll really, because I've always wanted to do a large group, a large wall like this. And I just wanted to see how far I could take it. So I've literally been doing these little guys for 8 months now. And I couldn't be more delighted with the variations and the level of inquiry that I've been able to achieve. This one is pretty early. You can see the difference between this one and other ones. The one in the corner in the black frame is the earliest one. And you can see that they go in stages where sometimes there's lines underneath and then there's just quick work on top. Sometimes there's layers and layers and then a grid and then quick work on top. But all this started as a way to get to the next group of real paintings. But in the meantime, I just love doing these and I really hate to stop. So that's the basic idea, and that's the level of inquiry that I've tried to pursue, and hopefully towards some kind of sublime that you as a viewer might be able to experience. And I want to end with, and there's a great show in Washington, D.C. right now that I highly recommend. Robert Irwin is famous for having saying, the wonder is still there. And as an artist, you go into your studio, and I've been doing this for a long time, don't have anybody else in the room with me, don't have anybody telling me what to do except maybe the bank, occasionally Shelley. So I set up my own problems. I pretty much try to do whatever I want to do. I try not to think about money. Joseph Campbell always says, he used to say, it was a lot, you have to rid yourself of every worry, of every concern when you go to work. You have to just concentrate, just focus, just be present on the work, or the work will be nothing. And so the joy that I feel in this work, the tremendous amount of variation within a very simple group of marks, I'm very intrigued by it, and I probably will continue. There are several circles in the other room. There are several black and whites in the other room. So I set this up, I probably did 100 or 120, from which I chose the 65 that are here. And they're chosen to complement each other and also to show you the range that I try to do, and also colors that I like and colors that I maybe wouldn't use normally. That's it. Any questions? I'd love to answer a couple of questions.
Do you seal your work? Do you seal it so that it will not fade?
Do I seal my work so it won't fade? Well, the work on canvas is varnished. The work on paper is treated like a watercolor, and I use ultraviolet filtering glass. Is that what you mean?
How did you come to a decision about the frame style? That's like an ash.
I'm all about invisible presentation.
So the frame doesn't detract from the work.
Exactly, and These are Metro Frame from Minnesota. They make a fabulous product. They're not cheap, but they're good value for what they are. And maybe a more important question is, how did I decide on this size? And that is these two sizes are the way I have devised to rip up a full sheet of arches with the least amount of waste. And it turns out that this size is particularly, and I mention this in my words on the wall, it particularly is useful for me because it doesn't come with the baggage that a full sheet of arches, I think the paper retails for about $25 a sheet now. So you start out with a piece of paper that's $25 and you think, remember, I'll be a little bit more careful, or how to do this, and I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be the least bit precious about it. I don't want to worry about it, and I rip out 3 or 4 sheets at a time, so I have a big stack, and I just go for it, and that's the way I like to work. It's really keep it playful, and that's why I mentioned the quote about Robert Irwin, and started to talk about being alone in the studio. All of us that work at any job know that it's important to reinvent in a way that is meaningful. So whether you're working in the restaurant business or working as a haberdashery or whatever you do, you have to make your work as meaningful as possible. If you're a salesman, you have to be a self-starter, get out on the road. If you're a politician, you have to be able to connect with people. So if you're making things, you want to make the best things that you can, and then you want to make something that's better. And the best work, my daughter called from Washington, D.C., my one daughter called and asked this morning what I was going to talk about. And I said, inquiry and the sublime. And I want to mention that the best work, see if I can get this the way I said it to her, the best work is both personal and universal. So if you are doing things, and if any of you are doing things that have great personal significance, but make it in whatever way that it can be universally read, and then for the longest period of time, now this is assuming that the craftsmanship and the presentation and everything are as good as they can be, that's what creates a good work of art. And then the work that is considered good for the longest period of time, thinking of Mona Lisa, that sort of thing, that's what makes a great work, because it reads for the longest period of time to the largest group of people. At least that's what I think about it. Yes?
So is every piece that we're seeing on the walls text-based or word-based?
No, none of this work is. These two are the only ones. This group of work, and actually you're not the first person that's asked me that. That's a good
I
question.
thought that was the context imagery.
Correct. That is, I make text and number-based, color-oriented abstraction. And the reason I started talking about inquiry and showed these old sketchbooks is I'm interested in the inquiry of how do I create different grounds for the next group. So instead of them being maybe overall brushstrokes like this, which may have come from this sort of thing, what else might they be? So these are, you could say, ideas towards the grounds of paintings in the future. At least that's the way it started. Now, for me, they're just great little paintings. Some of them are just great little paintings. This is killer little painting. But it'd be nice if that was a ground too. This is a great little painting.
So you work on a few of them at the same time? Is that why they seem to really work so well together?
Yeah, I'll rip up a whole pile and I'll start as many as I can. And then they take a while to dry. I may work on them and then break for lunch, and maybe some will be dry when I come back, and I'll work on some of those. Maybe I'll start some other ones. Maybe something seems to be going right and I'll use that. And it's just like, it's totally free association, sort of like what you're doing. It's totally like, that's pretty good. And I try not to think about it. And then at some point I try to think about it. But I try not to think about it too much. You start to think about it, you muck it up.
Yeah.
I'll think about it later. they become something else. But you can tell the ones that are just rocking because they're not thinking about it. The whole thing of Oriental Eastern calligraphy, you know, that they had, you see the Zen master who does this one stroke or two strokes, and it seems so simple, and the question is, you know, how long did it take you to do that? And the guy's standing there watching him, and he knows it took 20 seconds, and the guy says, you know, 65 years or 80 years or whatever, because it's a lifetime of being in the moment or a lifetime of blocking out other things, or, you know.
The work we have on the walls and the stencil work with the originals, are there any stencils at all on this, Jerry?
Yeah, well, these two on the wall, and these are all stencil pieces. None of the little guys have stencils at all.
These are just studies?
They're just brushwork, yeah, it's just brushwork. And a lot of them have elaborate grids underneath. Some of them have pen work underneath. You can see there
Is
are
that right?
pen lines underneath. But there's no stencil work at all on any of these.
But your intention when you do these, do you call these studies?
Yeah, these are all called stroke studies.
Okay, so the one that you like there, for instance, that pops,
Yeah.
your intention then would be to maybe take that as a study and carry it over into a larger format, whether it's circular or rectangular? And
That was the initial idea. Yeah, that was the initial idea. But honestly, like I said, a lot of these I like so much just the way they are.
Yeah, right.
I don't know that they ever have to be anything else.
Okay,
A lot of them would make great grounds, like the blue one would make a great ground.
right.
It doesn't mean it has to be. I allowed myself this, you know, coming out of the show that you saw in February.
Mhm.
Coming out of that group of work, I just allowed myself to keep on doing it because I enjoyed it. I mean, it's fun. It's like playtime, and it's fun. And believe it or not, I don't get to have fun every day or that much. A lot of it's just work. A lot of the stuff is very intense, time-consuming, tedious work, and this is like play. So it was great. A great exercise to go through and enjoyable. Yes.
I would like to say that they are beautiful, the little pieces. I keep looking and, oh, I'd like that one, and then, you know, I just keep looking. It's like, I'd like the whole wall, because there are so many that I just am drawn to.
Thank you.
Technically, I would like to know, how do you affix the canvas to what are you affixing it to?
These are just stretched on plywood. It's literally just stretched. I could take them right off.
Oh,
They're not glued on. They're just stretched and then gessoed on the plywood. So it's raw canvas. And that's why it looks as the way it looks. There are no ripples or anything. So I stretch it carefully, and then it shrinks slightly when with the
right, the gesso.
the liquid of the gesso.
Yeah.
Some of them are very musical, don't you think, Stephen?
Very.
What's great about it, Jerry, is Erica commented on this back in February when we stood and looked at the wall, ended up picking the one we picked, but having them together like this, you know, each one, to this comment here, it just evokes another emotion. Sounds kind of heavy on a Saturday morning, but I mean,
No, it creates a different
does
kind of
give a
narrative.
different feeling, yeah.
They chat with each other, and
Yeah.
some of them shout at each other, and yeah, that's.
It's great.
And this is not happenstance. This is a couple of months of looking at them and moving them around and pulling one out and sticking another one in. I think it took me about 10 days to come up with the arrangement that's on the card, and then it took a long time to come up with this after I finished. And then I kept changing it. Like this one was added at the very last minute because I had one that I really liked for this spot, but then I like this one better. So.
Do you name them or number them?
They're numbered. So they're all numbered. They're all numbered with year and then when they were started. So they may be finished, you know, now in 2016, but I may have started 2015, so it may be 1547 or something like that.
you put a Vermont's narrative on the back of them?
I would for you. Yeah, things that have been shown places, sometimes there's things written on the back. I just sold one to an institution, and it was on the cover of another brochure and on a mailer, and I stuck those on the back. So yeah, I can write prologue, but typically I don't bother with all that.
My question's too, are you a Virgo? Because I love the symmetry, I love the technical.
First of all, I'm happily married. I'm a Turonian. My ancestors come from Toronia.
Jerry, you said musical, and that reminded me that a lot of mornings I'm in here and I do put on music, and I always wonder, does the artist listen to music while they're working, and if so, what kind of music?
It's a great question. I listen to lots of different kinds of music. I wouldn't say every kind of music imaginable, but I have lots and lots of different kinds of music. I also listen to movies a lot, and I listen to books on tape occasionally. I listen to a couple of radio talk shows, and now I'm listening to podcasts. So I've listened to all kinds of things. Cameron's, have you heard any of Cameron's radio shows yet?
No.
Man, you gotta hear Cameron's radio shows. They are so fantastic.
Are they good? Is he podcasting now?
You can get hold of them. They're not public, but you can get hold of them. We have a friend that makes a radio show that is like a private radio show. It's sort of like, well, it's like a hub. So they're not broadcast, but they're fabulous. And the music that he chooses, it's like listening to MMR. It's like the old Gene Shea show.
Really?
Yeah, it's
I didn't realize
incredible.
they were doing
Oh my God, it's incredible. But he has all kinds of stuff on there. So I listen to Cameron. We listen to Cameron constantly in the car, and he has about 95 or 98 episodes that are at least an hour each now, and he just finished 2 more. So I listen to Cameron a lot. So this is like, you know, the best rock and roll, and goes back to French cafe music and Louis Armstrong and all kinds of things. So I've listened to that an awful lot, but I tend to listen to a lot of European cafe music and pop music and classic rock and roll and classical. I listen to a lot of classical music. But I listen to movies. Like a lot of the movies, a lot of the work that I do is inspired by movies, as you know from the thing. Right? Then a whole lot of paintings from the movie Oh Brother Where Art Thou, the Coen movie. Damn, we're in a tight spot. It's full of astrological change of the human heart. Do not seek the treasure. The only record, the only music related one that I can think of off the top of my head is I did a circle. I'm getting bug driving up and down the same old strip. I got to find a new place where the kids are hip. Beach Boys. That was a very involved painting. There's an awful lot of words to fit into a painting, and they all go up and down. So that was technically difficult. What do you think? Does this make any sense?
Is your studio open like a stern area?
No, I'm not open. I'm 34 and a half North Queen Street, but if you shoot me an email, I'll let you come in. I don't answer the phone. I pretty much only answer emails, but I've been told I answer emails quickly. I'm not open to the public, but I'm open to friendly people that are serious
Should
people.
we have your email address?
Yeah, I'll give you a card. I have cards along there, or Jessica has cards. Thank you all very much, and it really is really nice of you to come out on such a beautiful day. You know, rainy day would be maybe a different story, but on such a beautiful day, I really appreciate it.